So I'd like to start by introducing Jan Homer from Wenatchee High School and a farmer who she works very closely with, Susan Gaspar. So Jan's going to start. Go ahead.
This is not my forte, speaking in front of people, but I really believe in what we're doing, so I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and doing this presentation. Oh. So my history is I've been in restaurants all my life. I've owned and managed many in the Wenatchee Valley. I came to the school district about 8 years ago, and when I came there, we had the typical deep fryers, fast food, and over the course of the last 8 years, we've removed all our deep fryers and been buying a lot of produce from local farmers. So I'm very dedicated to teaching kids that eating healthy is a lifestyle and also very good.
I have been in education for, I taught at the Catholic School District for 34 years, and I taught health and fitness, so it's related to what we're talking about today. Retired a few years ago, and I'm currently a vendor at the Wenatchee Valley Farmers Market and other markets in the area, and I've done this for about 12 or 13 years. I grew up on a family farm, and I remember as a little girl spending lots of time with my grandfather in his vegetable garden and working in the orchard. And I think my grandfather influenced me a great deal I have this passion for growing things, I think. And when I was little, I always wanted to have an orchard when I grew up. I thought I would. And so I do have a small orchard right now, and thanks to my brother Scott, who's sitting right there, he does all the hard things in the orchard for me, and I get to do the fun things. So that's a little bit of my background.
So some of our strategies for success.
Okay, to start with, Jan and I first connected through Scott and his wife Maggie because they were selling the school district apples and they wanted vegetables. And so they recommended me. And so I talked with Jan, and then a very simple process to get set up is go to the district office, fill out the paperwork, have a business license, that type of thing. And every week then, I send out a fresh list, and they communicate with the schools.
Is that better?
On the school end, we need to have menu flexibility. We have our main menu done, and then when the farmers offer us what they have in season, we can add the different fruits and vegetables to complement our main entrees. We set up a delivery schedule with each farmer. Sue delivers her product on Monday, Scott and Maggie come on Wednesday, Cloudview comes on Tuesday. So we're getting a fresh shipment almost every day of the week. And receiving and storage, it's just the same as buying product through FSA. We keep it in our coolers, and we usually store a little bit more for the farmers because they deliver only once a week. Staff buy-in is a big thing. It's a little bit more work to clean potatoes coming straight from the field. Slicing, dicing, but when your staff sees the positive effects, they become excited about it too. This is just tells you what we bought for the Wenatchee High School, just one school, in September and October. So you can see we buy quite a bit of local produce.
About this time of year, actually, is kind of when it all starts between us and my vegetables. because I'm ordering and receiving seeds and getting started planting. And so any new things that they want me to try to grow for them, that's very fun. I like to try new vegetables in my garden. I know last year one of the middle schools wanted me to grow wax beans and leeks. So gave it a try, turned out great. And then those things I also can use to supplement in my farmer's market.
So some of the benefits, you don't get any fresher produce. You call your farmer a day or two ahead, and you pick the day of or the day before. So the freshness is great. Kids notice and appreciate the difference in the produce. There's nothing like a vine-ripe tomato. It's great to keep our dollars local. And it provides the farmers, and Scott and Maggie and I discovered this, that schools like the smaller pieces of fruit, whereas the general public like the great big apples. So it provides the farmers a market for their smaller fruit.
Benefits for the farmer, and it's a significant thing for a farmer, and I do farmers markets, and I'm sure there's some of you out there that do that also. When you sell at a farmer's market, and I love them, I mean, I'm addicted to farmer's markets, but you spend, a great deal of time getting your truck loaded, and then you get to the market a couple hours before it starts to get all set up, and you spend 5 hours selling, and then you unload, or you load back up and get things put back, and then your overhead, which involves your stall fee and belonging to associations and licenses and things, is significant. When you sell to the school, you pick it, you load it, you wash it, you deliver it, and you have the opportunity to go into the school and visit with the manager and the cooks and see what's going on. That's a significant savings in overhead, time, and money. So that's a real benefit to the farmer. I send out a fresh sheet every week to the district, and then they order like on Thursday or Friday, and I deliver on Monday. So that's nice to have that order ahead of time, to know what it is, and I can adjust my, if they order, the schools order a whole bunch of green beans, then I can adjust my market on Saturday to, not pick them quite so small so that I'll have beans that are just right for them on my Monday deliveries. Another benefit specifically for me is I do markets on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So I harvest on Tuesday for Wednesday's market, and then I pick on Thursday and Friday for Saturday's market. And then there's, from Friday all the way to the next Tuesday, my zucchinis keep growing and the bean, everything keeps growing. And so there's a huge advantage to me to have a market or a school delivery on the Monday and then pick on Sunday. So I harvest Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it keeps the product just in the shape that I would like it in. It's also a good solid order from the school. I know that that is an order that's going to be there, where other methods of selling, you might not know, what you're going to sell that. It might rain all day at the farmer's market and you don't have any customers. So, there are a lot of benefits to it.
Benefits for the school, financially, we're still in the black. The quality is outstanding. It's great to introduce kids to new, healthy varieties of vegetables. And you get to try different products. And the farmers, who's growing your produce. And if there's ever any issues with the quality, your farmer's bringing the product to you. You can address anything that you need to at the time of the delivery. This is a map. We have a map in each of our secondary schools, and it just shows the kids, the parents, the staff members, where their produce is coming from in Washington State. So we've got a list of all of our farmers and where they're located and what we buy from them. And Taste of Washington, Dale talked about that. We've done that for the last 3 years. And it's a really fun event. The kids have a great time. Sue and I did tomato skewers last year. And, kids would walk up and say, oh, I don't like cherry tomatoes. Well, they try one, and then they try 2 or 3, and then they're, doing skewers of cherry tomatoes. So it's a great way for them to taste new things. Maggie brought a bin of pears, and she let the kids fill up the picking bags, and just to kind of see how hard it is to do that. And this is our harvest of the month. We've been doing this for the last year was our first year, and we have high school kids help us, and the kids love it. It's a great opportunity to introduce them to new foods again. And at the end of each school year, we do a barbecue at each elementary. And last year, we featured blueberries from Blueberry Hills up in Manson and greens from Sunshine Farms in Chelan. So it was a great way. We touched about 6,000 people during those barbecues. Kids, parents, staff members. So it was a great way to kind of showcase what we've been doing all year. So all said and done, it's creating, the community's learning that it's not all about fast food and poor eating. There's a lot of great food at Wenatchee School District. And most importantly, we're creating healthy lifestyles for our kids.
Do you find any complications if you were doing your menu planning a month or 2 in advance and not being able to get the product that you put on your menu?
Well, I menu our entrees, and I'll put something like roasted vegetables. If I can't get enough from the farmers, then I can supplement from FSA.
So what about like the subgroup requirements?
The
vegetable subgroup requirements, so if you're planning for like leafy greens, and you plan for that, you can't get them.
Supplement from FSA.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really nice. When I first started doing it, I would just worry, what if I don't have enough zucchini for that order? What if I sell too many at Friday's market or Saturday's market and I don't have enough for Jan? And then she clued me in that you have to just give me a day or so and I can supplement another source.
Other questions? Kurt.
Oh, does the Wenatchee School District currently source any local meat?
No, we do not.
And there was a question in the back.
Did you have school district and community support from the start, or was there some work that happened in the beginning when you started doing farm to schools that helped make that happen?
It was, it started with a phone call to Scott and Maggie, and the community is becoming more aware. There was really no community support, but they love what we're doing now. It was something small that's just grown.
And the school district supports you too.
Oh, absolutely.
Food service director, Kent, and they're, through the farmers market, and there's a farmhouse table, a little community. Green grocers that also, so there are other ways that we've tried to extend community support, starting from that kind of nascent connection between Jan and Sue. So it is really important to try and, build that as you go along. Yeah.
You have to make a budgetary adjustment to afford, was there any discrepancy between affording local farm food and affording FSA?
Well, in the beginning, we talked about that because that was a concern, and we compared prices that I could get from our main supplier, and they made adjustments in their prices, and it's kind of a give and take.
Right. I look at what I sell things for at the farmers market, and realizing the time involved with farmers market in the school, that I can sell, you know, items at a better rate for the schools because I don't have as much, you know, time invested.
Maggie, did you have a question?
I was going to say, another way in Wenatchee that I've noticed that community support is Anna's done a great job with both the Wenatchee Borough, but also the high school newspaper. It's amazing how often the kids in the school will do a story, and that goes out, and that goes to the moms. And, you know, I've seen the high school newspaper, the library, I've seen the doctor's offices. Other ways it's gotten out into the community is through the ESB newsletter. There's been information, and as a certified teacher on websites, it's amazing. I don't know what that's all stemming from you or from you, but in the last 5 years, I've seen there are other school districts in the valley.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll now hear from Jeanette Root in Othello, food service director, and she works with Sandy Lehrman, and they're both going to tell you something about their story.
One of the things we wanted to do was to use something fresh so that they know we used asparagus. We had a lot of things, but we used asparagus, and we blanched it and let the kids try it. They tried it fresh, and then we also had pickled asparagus, and that's what came from the Columbia Valley Farms, because we wanted them to see what you could do with a product. Also, it gave us the opportunity to not only have it fresh, but then to be able to continue to put on our salad bars after the asparagus was out of season. So that's kind of how we got started with using the pickled asparagus in our school on our salad bars. The same token, our school and community was the one that basically pushed me. The program that we've had going with Empire Health Foundation has just been unbelievable. I have been slightly overwhelmed the last year and a half with the whole process. So really, we are basically just at a stage where it's busting open. Through the Empire Health Foundation, the community got involved. We actually got a grant. The grant ended, and we were so interested in keeping our community healthy and getting that word out so that our children can be healthier. They opted to start what we now call the Othello Healthy Collation. So they are ready and waiting for us to do things with them in the community, with the school, so that it can be something that goes from the farm to the house to the school. So anyway, also I do want to mention, hopefully this will be okay, but American Produce, John Butler's, has been the saving grace of us this last couple years. I mean, we've used him for years, but I just don't want him to be left out of the picture, because we had a new school added, another school added to our school, and we had to take a cook out of each kitchen to make that school run. So we now have 2 set of hands that are not there. So in order to meet the regulations, their company has been awesome. They work with us very well. So I don't want to leave them out, because it has just been something where the kids can, serving the asparagus is one thing that's great, and then they can grab a fruit or a vegetable, whatever we're using that day. So anyway, we're just barely getting off the ground with all this, and we have lots more we hope to complete. And now I will let Sandy give a little bit of her story.
We are Columbia Valley Family Farms, and it's a great story of 2 brothers who are asparagus farmers for the past 28 years. And 2 years ago, in Altopia, a processing plant, asparagus processing plant came open for sale, and they thought, wow, this is what we do. And it was a hand in a glove fit. And so they bought the processing plant, and then Jeanette put our pickled asparagus into their school district. One thing about pickled asparagus is what people don't notice is usually kids have a really bad taste in their mouth because it's been done at home. It's soft, it's mushy, the mom didn't cook it right. What we do is, the two brothers own all their own fields. It is picked in the morning. They own their own trucking company. It's packed. It is cooled down, the asparagus, packed in our refrigeration semis, and then it's trucked over to Eltopia, which is 15 miles away. If anybody knows where the Mercantile is, behind the Mercantile is where our offices are, and most of the asparagus fields are. Two brothers, Columbia Valley is one of the largest asparagus growers in the state of Washington. They are very humble. They will not tell you that. They are very low-keyed. Once they're picked, it's processed. It's hand-picked. It's hand-selected. It goes to the processing plant, and it starts the processing process. So within 24 hours, the asparagus comes from the field into the jar. We do not blanch. It is processed in a hot brine. So when you can taste test this afternoon, you will find that the asparagus has a crunch to it. What you'll taste has been done less than a year ago. Shelf life is 3 years, but we find that when we, like right now, we're like, okay, how much are we going to produce? How many pallets are we going to do for this next year? So that there is hardly any carryover for the next year. It's amazing. We do lots of demonstrations. We've had schools come out to the farm. I take them out into the fields, and they're like, "You mean it doesn't come off a tree?" And you're like, "No, it grows up from the ground, and within 24 hours, it's going to grow, 6 to 8 inches." And the kids are amazed. Then I bring them into our office, and we just do some taste testing because we have like 6 different products, flavors, and we also grow green beans. And green beans are done in August. We are gearing up for asparagus season. It starts probably the second week in April, and it goes till the end of June. We think, and one of the main goals the past year has been that asparagus is just not, pickled asparagus is just not for Thanksgiving tables and in somebody's drink. And so what we've done is we're trying to educate people that we hired a marketing company, and we put out recipes. We've gone into different places just to educate people that you can do a ton with pickled asparagus. We think it should be on every salad bar, in pasta salads, in panini sandwiches. One of the big hits in our office is, I'm the only female, so I get to cook and try everything. I cut it up into salsas with a sweet onion and a tomato and a jalapeno and with some chips, and they just think I'm just a crocker. This company also pureed it, and they put it over, we hired a catering company, and they made like 15 different recipes for us, of things that you could do with pickled asparagus. One of the hits was they pureed it and used it as a salad dressing. It was phenomenal. But we are very open to coming into your school in your lunchroom and having your kids try what pickled asparagus is about. It's a specialty item, definitely, but to educate children on the nutritional value of asparagus is rich in A, B6, C, iron, potassium. They always go, "What's that little gray stuff on the?" And that's rutin. Rutin is it strengthens your blood vessels. It's what asparagus can do nutritionally for your body is unbelievable. So yeah, we're here to promote pickled asparagus. It's just not fresh anymore. Stop by and sample. I did do some cream cheese and some little ham things too that maybe aren't as good for you, but we believe that what it can do for you is what we believe in it.
Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea. Actually, the two gentlemen that farm are good friends of ours, and they have a lot of things that they would like to do with the fresh that they have. They are growing the green beans, and we're making plans with them to use them fresh in our schools. So we have a lot of things that we'd like to do yet. I do want to mention that you are able to buy the pickled asparagus through FSA. They've made that contact. When we first bought it, they actually delivered it to us in the back of the pickup. But since then, they've made it available through FSA. So if you're interested, it is there. Also, I did want to mention, we are farmers ourselves. My husband actually farms alfalfa hay, but we both came from California and both came from farming families. So I am very much in, I want to see this happen. That's how we make our living, and so I would like to do everything in our community possible to see that the farmers and the small people have a chance to impact the schools.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Sandy or Jeanette? Maggie?
I just wondered, when you said this, you have kids come out to the asparagus fields and you're showing the opposites, are you speaking about a busload of kids from the school, so their school on the field trips?
Yeah, it's per classroom.
Okay.
We don't take the whole school.
Right.
The bus comes and I
So
meet
one
them.
bus.
I meet them. We bring them out to the field because the fields are right there.
Right.
And then we bring them back. Our offices are there behind the mercantile. But right there too is all the asparagus brought in is weighed and graded as per field and for cutter.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're in production, they'll get to see all that. Then it's hydro-cooled, and so it's brought down to a certain temperature and then put into refrigeration semis, and then brought to the plant. The plant is not available for tours, but we will definitely show kids, this is how it's done, this is how it grows. And then they come into my office, and it's quite large. It used to be the old Seneca office, so it's quite large. I have a huge kitchen, and just line up the stuff and let it taste test, and they like something, sometimes they don't, sometimes they spit it out, sometimes they take more than one. And we also have lots of fresh. We'll see it go right from the fresh, and then I'll have the jars right from the fresh. So we'll see the whole process.
So this is ideal. Are you, as growers, are you running into any bureaucratic issues with these gap or having students helping with field or
They don't go
the bureaucracy of that?
good night.
Have you had any, goal in mind? No problem so far?
They don't go like into the field. They get to step into a couple rows because we don't want it smashed, and then we just explain how it grows. I mean, children have no idea that it grows up from the ground within 24 hours, and that the growing season is, April to end of June. Educate children. It's not, they don't even care about the nutritional value almost. It's like they're interested in, man, it grows so fast. And why does it curve? Well, it's because the wind blows, and they have no idea. Well, why is there dirt in it? Well, it's grown in a dirt field, and it is amazing just to educate of how it's done.
Well, these local, do you find you have kids that have experience, maybe on weekends or through their families that actually harvesting asparagus?
They know how it gets there, but to necessarily eat it other than raw out in the fields, we hear that a lot. But to be exposed to it as far as blanched or pickled. And I do have a couple recipes that we use at the school that I put through the nutritional program. I actually failed to come. I always forget that I go from my car to the school car, so my envelope's sitting on this in my car. So hopefully I can get that to them so that you can fresh and pickled.
Well, and another thing about it's really nice is they get to see. But we haven't had them yet see our migrant workers work. just happened to be, we happened to be in a field or two where they weren't working, but they get to see all these workers we hire, what they're doing. They work hard. We could not have our farm without these workers. So to educate them in that area also is really.
I have a logistical question. Do you know who pays for the school bus that brings the children to the farm? Do you know who pays for the school bus? So the school district is willing to...
They just
okay.
called. It was a high school. They called and said yes, and they just showed up with a school bus, and the school bus went out to the field.
That's great, because there is quite a bit of interest in these farm field trips, but usually the limitation is, especially if the farm is a little ways away, hiring the school bus and paying for that school bus, which apparently, because of all the liabilities and everything else, is quite expensive. So usually, unless you have a PTSA who has funding to do something like that, I think it's pretty lucky that the school district has built that into their budget to allow for something like that.
It was great. I got to ride the bus, stood up, you know, they're like, what is all that? I said, well, that's called a field and a farm, and that's a tractor, and because we have everything just right there, and
all right, thank you. So now we're going to hear from Pam Millison in Walla Walla and Justin Krallman, who is the farmer that she works with.
Good morning. My story starts a little different. I'm the food service director that is more than started out as kind of the naysayer. You know, I was raised in farming, but take a look at things more maybe from the business aspect, and I don't have time, I don't have funds, I don't have energy, I can't get it all done. And along comes one of our community heroes. She's sitting out here. This is Beth Field. Beth has a love for farming and a passion for farm to school and children in the school, and she started with some gardens in our school. For the past 5 years, Beth has spent a lot of time in my office convincing me that this is the movement to be part of. And she's got me to come around. So we started, when I started in Walla Walla about 10 years ago, we purchased all of our apples locally. What we later found out is that we weren't doing any type of a quote or bid system, and that might have not been the proper way to do it, but our local farmers, and we were getting some of the best apples in the valley for our kids. So luckily no auditors really noticed that. So Beth started looking for funding through grants, through a number of things. So recently we were awarded the Farm to School grant. It's a 2-year, very large grant. When we applied for it, we thought, well, you know, we really don't have a great chance, but it's a great exercise, and why not try? We had done some preliminary things, and I think what we learned, or what I learned, was to take the baby steps. Even if you just start with one small things of buying apples locally. I think our next project was asparagus. We have quite a few asparagus producers in our area, and so we picked just 2 elementary schools, start small, and we brought asparagus into those 2 schools and did roasted asparagus and served it more as a taste test to start with as the kids came in the door, kind of that Costco style. And kids would come in and pick up a small cup of asparagus, and it was also featured on our salad bars. So if they liked it, they could have more. If they didn't even want the cup, they could share it with a friend. And you know, the face that was presented earlier of the little boy, I had a whole class of those faces as they were backing away from the table at the door going, it's green. And just all of a sudden, totally spontaneous, one of our 5th grade boys was leaving the cafeteria, and he picked up on what was going on, walked over to the table and started eating asparagus and talking to the kindergarten students about it. Now you'd think as food service directors with some marketing ability, we might have figured this out in advance, but we hadn't. And within a few minutes, he had the entire class eating asparagus. So you know, you learn by your mistakes. One of the things we've learned is the marketing and what's important to kids. They don't care if there's a mom standing at the door telling them to eat asparagus. They care if the 5th grader or the high school football player or come up, maybe the fireman on that particular day, different ways to market to kids. And the fact that the taste is non-threatening. It's something they can try and they don't have to worry about, do I have to eat this whole amount that's on my tray? What is that stuff? And we found that we had a great participation rate. So this year, with Beth's convincing, we kind of took that step into the deep end. We started with Taste Washington, and we had such an amazing Taste Washington Day in all of our schools. And we have some amazing farmers in our area. We had corn. I don't know if you've ever shucked a lot of corn, but we did, with Beth's help, by hand in our warehouse. Was it 2,000 ears? About 2,000 ears of corn, and then sent it out to our kitchens, because I knew if I told my staff that they were going to shuck corn as well as do all the other things we had asked, we might have a riot. So we had corn, we had amazing colored peppers from Justin's farm. We had pluots. We have some great farmers that are growing pluots. We had staff that didn't know what a pluot was. It was just an amazing day. We've done Harvest of the Month now. We're having a little difficulty with finding Harvest of the Month products at this time of year without pre-planning and maybe doing some freezing. We did a roasted root vegetable day with kids. The next project that we jumped into was some chefs in the school. And we picked our elementary schools. Because we're Walla Walla and our wine community is just exploding, so is our chef and food industry that pairs up with that. So Beth recruited 5 local chefs to come in on a volunteer basis of their own time. And what we're getting out of this is new recipes and recipe development. Chefs working with kids, chefs working with our staff. And it has been very exciting. My very first kitchen we started in, my kitchen manager said, "Do I have to do this?" Whose idea was it? And she's one of my more positive people. So I said, sometimes you just have to jump in and do it and we'll just get through it. It'll be good. And the chef she was working with is delightful. And they did a chicken minestrone soup with butternut squash, garbanzo beans. Amazing, just absolutely amazing. And we had decided on that particular day, we do our elementary and middle schools do 3 entree choices every day with salad bars or variety bars. And we decided on that particular day we would only do 1 entree, and that would be the chef's choice. And we were a little apprehensive because I think you all know you have that little boy or girl that will only eat the chicken nuggets, and if they're not there, they go into full meltdown. We didn't have any meltdowns. I had chefs coming out from behind the line, talking with kids and getting them just to taste the broth or try one of the vegetables in the soup. When we debriefed with that kitchen manager, she said, "I am so glad I've done this. This was one of the most exciting days I've had. The kids loved it. We learned things. The chef learned things from us. Because we're approaching things from we have a set budget per meal. A chef starts with a creation and then they decide what that price is going to be. So it's in reverse. They have to learn some of our regulations, the nutritional values we have to meet, the cost constraints. And what we're getting out of it is going to be 5 to 6 recipes at the end of this that we can then continue to work with and come out with something great for our kids. We have looked at a program that we're picking wraps, pizza, salads, soups, rice bowl, I got one more, pasta. And then different flavor profiles. It might be Asian, it might be African, it might be Middle Eastern. So introducing kids to a whole different flavor profile. And we sat down with our chefs and set our goals, and then they go out and meet with our kitchens, and they work as a team to develop a recipe and to proceed.
I guess it was covered earlier. Working with the school district as far as advantages and stuff is the orders in advance are huge. You know, knowing that you're going to get paid for your delivery, and and just the whole ease of that setup is a real advantageous to I assume. This is kind of a new process for myself, and so I don't have a lot of experience in it, other than I can see the advantages to my kids who attend the local schools, and they enjoy the fresh local stuff in there, and just everybody involved. It's worked out really well for us. So we're Walla Produce Company. We had an online CSA offering where you were able to order weekly, you know, without having to subscribe to a whole year's worth of, you know, boxes. So it's a lot of work. It's 7 days a week kind of work, but if you enjoyed it, it works out all right. But yeah, it was we offered a lot. I think we tried to cover just about every base we could and be as accommodating to every customer and vendor. So it was a lot of work. We probably will change a few things, but and, what else did we do? We had well, yeah, I think we supplied peppers, corn, and we did some tomatoes as well. And then we were a little late in the season on the on our melons. We had a huge variety of melons as well, and they just didn't make it into the school year. So that's something to look forward to as we plan for production, as to what we'll preserve and go on beyond. You know, since our growing season and the school season doesn't really match up super well in our valley, and you gotta think ahead as to produce that will be available well into the winter months. So.
For that planning piece,
I think we had communication. It was our key in visiting with farmers on how we want things delivered, pack sizes, you know, whether our quotes are in pounds or cases, so that you're, you know, when you're looking at quotes, you're comparing apples to oranges. I mean, apples to apples. And so I think that's just part of the learning process. It seems a little intimidating, and it's really not. It's just a communication piece. I think the biggest benefit is getting to know our local farmers. I went out to one of our farms and picked up asparagus, and I picked up pears were one of the other items we had at our harvest of the month, and so getting to, you know, in touch with our local farmers and actually marketing our farmers as we do these things. We, you know, give them our kids. We send out nutritional information that goes to the classroom, also about the foods that we're focusing on, and information about what farmer that came from, where they're located, maybe a little bit of history or pictures with them. You know, as we move ahead, looking at doing more field trips, getting kids actually out to the farm, getting more gardens in some of our different schools. Beth has a wonderful garden program that each class does a specific part of the garden, and then that is brought into either the classroom. You know, she does a salsa with younger kids. I've watched kids dig potatoes. That was amazing, just to watch these kids go out and dig potatoes. And the girls love it more than the boys. But it's like treasure hunting for them. It's something they've never experienced. Then they bring those potatoes into our cafeteria. The kids clean and wash them, help cut them up, and then they serve them as a supplement to the service line. So yeah, you're getting kids involved is a piece that we've just kind of got started in, that we need to expand even more. It's getting more kids, looking at some of our chefs that want to now come back after they did their first tour, but we've had kids interested in saying, you know, I'd really like to be a chef, and so we want to incorporate those kids into the cafeteria when our chef is there. So that's another piece of, you know, that kind of dream out there. Once the ball starts rolling, it can really snowball and go fast.
Okay, one last question.
I have a question about the chefs coming
Yes.
to the school. So it started off as a volunteer program. Once you receive your grant, are you now able to compensate the chefs?
They are still doing it voluntarily, but part of the grant is in some recipe development and what's the other part with our chef? Training? Recipe development and training. And so we were working with a local college and the head of their culinary department, that chef, to come out, and we're able to pay him to be able to do that.
Are you on the, I'm sorry, any grant?
Implementation? Implementation.
And then one last thing, is your plan for the students to get a little more involved in the recipe development piece, that be part of that prior to turning it on?
Yes, it's one of the things that we've looked at is kind of as our marketing piece, is getting those kids involved in, is it, you know, if the kids don't eat it, we're just wasting our time.